Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I rise this evening to make my contribution on the estimates scrutiny for the Minister for Skills, Training and Workforce Growth, in particular Minister Ellis. I had the opportunity to sit in on that scrutiny and observe online other elements of his contributions. There's been much said about that today. I want to focus in on an area of great importance to the farmers of Tasmania. In my shadow ministry responsibilities for primary industries and water, I had the opportunity to raise a couple of issues with the Minister around skills and training, education and skills, particularly for our farmers in Tasmania. There's a concern that within TAFE Tasmania, the training that's being offered for people in the agricultural sector is not fit for purpose, and we ask questions about the suitability of the training, the nature of the training, and whether the Minister felt that that was fit for purpose, and also about whether the delivery of the training could better engage industry experts. There's a real need for the opportunities of our young people to see agriculture as a career path, and part of being able to do that is to be exposed to those opportunities early in school, but also have fit for purpose and industry relevant delivery of agricultural training in TAFE. There was another issue that was raised with regards to concerns of young people, particularly taking on these opportunities, young people from regional and rural areas, often off-farm, farming families, having to come into the city to attend TAFE for these courses, and that there's no longer suitable provision for accommodation for young people from rural and regional Tasmania to support them leaving home, leaving the security of their community, coming into the towns and having to sort of step up into independence and attend the training, but also then have to grapple with the challenges of not having secure co-located accommodation for young people. So those issues are things that we would ask. I did ask the Primary Industries Minister about these issues. I was referred to Skills and Training Minister, but these are issues that we ask the government to maintain a focus on, because it's not a new issue, they're not new concerns, and they are areas that do need deep consideration. An area of particular skill development that we need in Tasmania, there's a massive shortage in the country but also in Tasmania with shearers in Tasmania. And I raised the issue of shearing schools with the Minister. Again, I raised it first with the Minister of Primary Industries and Water, was immediately referred to the Minister for Skills and Training, and there was a frustration that I referred to earlier that, you know, a range of issues that were raised with the Ag Minister were, that's not my responsibility, that's not my responsibility. And I would say to this government and to the Ag Minister, but other ministers as well, when there's a concern that impacts the people that you serve, you need to take on an active interest and an active role in actually seeking to solve that, not just handball it off to somebody else. And so in the area of shearing schools, there was a period of time where funding was provided over a 4-year period, and really successful shearing schools were delivered. Some great outcomes, not just of young people, but of younger people in our community, people that were going on straight into shearing sheds and being active and contributing members of shearing crews all across Tasmania. I know in particular the reputations of a couple of shearers that have been competing as well and demonstrating the skills developed through shearing schools. One young woman that I met on a property in the Tamar Valley who'd been a successful graduate of a shearing school, really holding her own in a shearing shed and really well respected for the skills that were developed and her commitment to that through this experience. But unfortunately, over a year ago, the funding for shearing schools stopped in Tasmania. There has been a shortage and continues to be a shortage of shearers in Tasmania. I know shearing sheds across this state that for many, many years hosted shearing crews from Tassie shearers, or at least shearers from close by, but now one of the perhaps largest shearing sheds in Tassie only having shearers from mainland Australia, because you just can't get shearers in Tassie right now. And so shearing schools are really important, and there was a frustration that I raised with the Minister on behalf of the peak body and actually farmers and other industry bodies in Tasmania, where they had attempted with regular efforts through correspondence, through phone calls, through an attempt to secure a meeting face-to-face to discuss the stopping of funding for shearing schools in Tasmania, and had no success in being able to put themselves in front of somebody to have this solved. And I think it's a real problem where issues in our community that are pretty granular and pretty foundational to supporting different contributing sectors in Tasmania are not addressed, and that peak bodies and farmers themselves aren't able to have solutions considered by making respectful and engaged approaches to people. And it takes questions in Parliament time, it takes opposition member advocacy or questioning across the table at estimates to actually get an outcome. And it required repetitious questioning and direct asking to say, will you meet with the peak body that represents a $277 million industry in Tasmania? Will you please meet with them? Because although the government had been referring these individuals and collective groups to grant programs, competitive grant programs, to apply for funds for the shearing schools, they were being directed to funds that they weren't eligible for. Taking just a short moment to either engage with the correspondents or to understand the nature of the industry, obviously often piecework, whether it be casual work, whether it be all sorts of different arrangements for shearers, they weren't eligible for the funding grounds that they were being directed to. And despite this being brought to the attention of the government, despite it being explained clearly, they continued to be set in a direction that wasn't going to work for them. Now, having been able to raise this evidence at the table in estimates, having been able to use the opportunity for questions repeatedly to ask to have a meeting secured. At the very conclusion, once the broadcast had stopped, a direct question to a member of the team that these people were hoping to meet with made a commitment that they would meet with them, and that meeting has happened. But why is it so hard? Why does it take so much effort? And why does it have to happen at a political level when operationally these things can't be addressed? Now, there has been a direction to a grant round for these people to apply for. We're hoping that there is success in that. Whether that success comes now or not, it shouldn't take a year for one of the most contributing and productive industry sectors in Tasmania, somebody that, a group that is used by Brand Tasmania and Tourism Tasmania and trade to demonstrate the premium quality of things that we have all around the world. The fine wool of Tasmania, shipped all around the world and transformed into the highest quality and the most beautiful and exquisite fashion wear or other homewares being used from here. We can't deliver on that. We can't reinforce the Tasmanian brand. We can't reinforce trade. We can't reinforce the economies in our communities. They can't shear their sheep. So my contributions in scrutiny for the Minister of Skills and Training and Workforce Growth unfortunately required relentless repetition to have a simple task provided. This government continue to seek to only act under pressure, only act under either relentless questioning, relentless pressure, or when something gets awkward and they feel like, okay, right now we've got to the point where maybe we have to act. We can't just keep talking about this. We can't just keep kicking it down the road. Then they take action. It shouldn't be that hard for significant industries of Tasmania to get the support that they need to continue to contribute to the Tasmanian economy. On this occasion, it looks like there has been some success, but it should never take an industry that much and that be that hard to get outcomes from this government.